Oswego Christian Church. And dads, happy Father's Day! Come on, you can do better than dads, right? Let's try it again. Let's do a woo for dads, all right? Happy Father's Day! Woo! All right, that's awesome. Hey, real quickly, I wanted to pray for one other thing, and then we're going to do a greeting time, and then my message is short today for fathers, all right? Everybody say woo! But I'm going to make it long, all right? So, I'm just kidding. Before we go any further, I thought it would be good for us to talk for just a second about something that happened in our nation this week on Wednesday. There was a shooting that happened in a church. You guys are aware of this, right? And it was racially oriented, and it kind of breaks my heart that kind of stuff still is happening in our country. And so this morning, I wanted us to just take a moment to pray for that church, pray for those people, pray for this kid that maybe God will get a hold of his heart and change some things. But man, that's kind of stuff should not be happening here, right? And I just wanted to remind you how very important it is that we continue to share the gospel with people. We continue to break down those walls, because I had a friend say on Facebook, she's from New York City, and so I posted stuff about Father's Day this week, and she said, you better mention that. And I said, we're going to talk about it. But I told her that the only thing that will ever really eradicate that is the gospel. Like, that's the thing that levels us all, right? It's the thing that puts us all at the foot of the cross and says, you're no better than anybody else. And so this morning, I would like for us to, one, pray for those families, pray for the people in that church, in that community. It's going to ignite a whole bunch of issues. But I'd also like us to just pray for the world around us, because the world needs Jesus at its very most basic way of seeing it. So I'd like to just take a few moments for you guys to silently pray for them, and then I'll pray, and then we'll continue on with the service. All right? So if you guys would take a few moments just to pray for what happened in those families. Father, I pray for the families this morning that are waking up without fathers, and are going to church for the first time this week without a mother who lost a loved one because of some insane violence, God. I pray for our country, for our nation, God, that you would not just bring this city back home to you, but you would bring our nation back home to you. God, that we would see a revival in our midst of the gospel taking over people's lives, taking control, and they would submit themselves to you, and we would find that there is a vibrancy, not just because we're a patriotic country or something, but because we're a country that is submitted to Jesus. I love you. I submit myself to you. I submit all the things about me that are from before you, and I pray that you would just continue to eradicate those things and make me more like you. Jesus, we pray for that church. We pray for that community. God, that you would help them to stand strong, help them to forgive with strength, and to let you heal and let them breathe with strength also. Please continue the work that you do in our country and in our world and change it. It's in your name that we pray, Jesus. Amen. This is Dad Life. It's how we live 24/7, 365. Check me. Gas station glasses, don't care what the masses think about me with my sweet goatee. I'm rocking my Dodgers with a cuff and a crease. I got that St. John's Bay and the clip for my piece. I look nice. I got dozens of dollars, and that's right. It goes straight to my daughters and my wife. I'm a miracle dad, making magic with the checkbook is a talent I have. I roll hard in the yard with a 60-inch cut. Zero turn radius, my neighbors say what? They be driving by, peeping my landscape. These rings got nothing on my landscape. Hydrangeas, begonias, crepe myrtles, ornamental turtles. Hold up, is that a weed in my fescue? Oh no, round up to the rescue. It's the dad life, it's the dad life.
Take my daughter to the party. It's the dad life. It's the dad life. It's the dad life. Shooting vids of the kids. It's the dad life. Roll up to the splash pad. 10 a.m. My whole entourage hops out the minivan. We splishy splashy for an hour or two. Then it's back to the house. Prepping for the barbecue. Brats, dogs, records, whatever. Give me all the weed, but man, nobody does it better. Call me Lord of the Grill. I'm king of the coals. Nana secret recipe, you know how I roll. 1080p, 16 by 9. I'm rocking man cave status with a screen like mine. Keep your peanut butter hands off my 50-inch Vizio. Pop up the corn, roll the Disney video. We got Aladdin, Jasmine, Abu, the genie. When kids like mud, everybody wants to be me. Sing another song and then it's off to bed. This is the dad life, no more to be said. It's the dad life, it's the dad life. Hit the mall, coach and ball. It's the dad life, it's the dad life, it's the dad life. Playing rough, fixing stuff. It's the dad life, it's the dad life, it's the dad life. Yeah, you know how we do it. It's the dad life.
All right, it's the dad life. I know some of you guys dance like that. That's for sure. Hey, yesterday I was thinking about how fun it is to be a dad. It is probably the best thing that I've ever done in my life, is to get to be a father. And one of the things that I love doing stuff for my kids. So yesterday we put in a storm shelter a few weeks ago, and I had to take down our zip line that we have in our yard. So I'm putting that back up yesterday, and I am up on a ladder, and I did what every good man does in those moments. I just put a ladder out, right? You could spend an hour in a yard trying to get your ladder perfectly level. I was like, good enough, set it down. The ladder's like doing this thing, and I am up on a ladder, holding a wire that's 200 feet long, trying to like get over to the tree, right? So I'm pulling on this thing, and it's trying to pull me backwards. And there were like 2 or 3 times where that ladder literally went, and I just about bite it. And so I'm standing up there holding it, trying my best to hold this thing, and all of a sudden it hits me. If this ladder goes, I don't just go down, I go flying backwards like 50 feet per second. You know what I mean? It's just like, boom, because that thing is going if it goes. And I'm standing up there, and I think, if I die right now, what's the legacy that I leave to my kids? You're waiting for a big punchline, right? What's the legacy that I leave to my kids, right? That my dad could use a ladder, right? That's it, right? Now, what is the legacy? Because if you don't know it, whether you know it or not, you will leave a legacy in this life. Your kids know something about you. They know if you are a workaholic, right? They know if you're a workaholic. They know if you cannot stand to not be busy for a moment, and because of that, you haven't spent any time with them. And guess what your legacy will be? Your kids will be a workaholic like you. Or they'll, like, kids either kind of become their parents or they go the complete opposite direction, right? They're just freewheeling hippies out there. Your kids know who you are. You know that? You will leave a legacy. Your kids, your legacy may be that you explode in anger all the time. Everybody knows you're a very nice person, but you explode with anger at home. And that'll be your legacy. And as I'm hanging on this ladder, 12 feet up in the air, holding onto a wire, doing dumb stuff that dads do, trying to please your kids, I'm thinking about what is the legacy that I'm going to leave for my kids. This morning, man, I'm just cutting to the chase. I want to know if you have thought about the legacy that you're leaving your kids. Some of you, this is more, it's more of a potent topic than for others. Some of you are closer to the point where it really is going to matter. It's going to matter soon what kind of legacy you've left, and there's still time to change it. Others of you, man, you are still on the front end of life, and there's time for you to make some decisions to become a man that really makes a difference and has a legacy that matters. But I want you to know it is not too late for any of us, and it's not too early for any of us to start to become the kind of men who are monumental men. And so this morning, this sermon is, I just want to talk about how we become a monumental man, how we leave a legacy of significance for your children. I want to speak real quickly because how many of you are not men? Raise your hand. You can say, woo, all right, really high if you want. There are several of you who are not men, right? This is not specific just to men. I am, because it's Father's Day, speaking to men. And this is not specific just to people who are fathers, even though because of Father's Day I'm speaking to fathers. These principles, these ideas are things that can be found in any of our lives, all right? So please don't tune out just because the way I worded this doesn't specifically apply to you. Use your adult mind and apply it to yourself, all right? Here we go. So, becoming a monumental man. I want to read a passage of Scripture from Joshua chapter 4, 1 through 8. I told you, this is for men, straight to the point, right? That's what you guys want? That's how we do it. Get to it, okay? Here we go. Joshua 4, 1 through 8. When all the people had crossed the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, now choose 12 men. 12 men, one from each tribe. Tell them, take 12 stones from the very place where the priests are standing in the middle of the Jordan. Carry them out and pile them up at a place where you will camp tonight. Now before we move past this, I want to tell you what's happened here. If you were to go back and read Joshua chapter 3, you would see that Joshua has been told by God, and Moses actually has given him this command, that he is to take the Israelites, the priests are to walk up holding the Ark of the Covenant. They will walk up to the Jordan River, and when they walk up to it, the Jordan River will split. And on one side, the water will pile up like a wall. On the other side, it will flow down into the Dead Sea. And the Israelites will walk across this land, and it will become dry. I think the way that God describes it, there's a wind that's blowing and it's drying out the ground, right? Powerful, miraculous stuff. And so what's happened is the Israelites, when all the people had crossed the Jordan, this is not them just fording the Jordan, all right? When they have crossed the Jordan, crossed this dry land, Joshua says that take 12 stones from the very place where the priests are standing, in the middle of the Jordan. Go out there. There are huge stones out there. Take them, and I want you to pile them up in a place where you'll camp tonight. We can go on to the next slide. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had chosen, one from each of the tribes of Israel. He told them, go into the middle of the Jordan in front of the ark of the Lord your God. Each of you must pick up one stone and carry it on your shoulder. 12 stones in all, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. We put in the storm shelter recently, and the guy, when he was digging, because it's Oswego, and what do we have here underneath the ground? Anybody know? Rock, right? The guy, I mean, he was like, do you guys want to keep the rock? I was at church, and I was like, yeah, it'd be nice to have some little rocks to like place around stuff, right? So I come home, and there are piles of rocks this big in our, like there's just a pile of rock this big in our yard. I was like, uh-oh, right? I'm going to have to find a farmer with some equipment. So these guys go, and they're putting them up on their shoulders. You move these kind of rocks, right? You people are familiar with this. They are picking these guys, big burly guys, picture putting them on their shoulders, and they're hauling them away. The people of Israel, these stones will stand as a memorial among the people of Israel forever. Go ahead. So the men did as Joshua had commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan River, one for each tribe, just as the Lord had told Joshua. They carried them to the place where they were camped for the night, and they constructed a memorial there. Now I want to talk to you guys, because here's what these guys are doing. They are building a monument, right? They're going to the place where they camped, and they're going to build a monument so they can talk to people for the rest of their lives. They can tell their kids, their generations to come, about what God did in this moment. I want to talk to you for a moment about something that we may have missed because we read that passage so quickly. About like the first thing that I think it kind of takes to become a monumental man. Are you ready for this? This is the first thing. Cut to the chase. Here it is. You got to go off-roading in life. You can't always take the easy path. You need to take the God path. You can't always take the easy path. You have to take the God path. These guys, the thing that I think we could just run over real quickly was the fact that these people actually got up and walked up to a river. Do you know in Joshua chapter 3, it says that this river is at flood stage, right? We know something about that, don't we? And I took my kids down to the river. We were going to fish while it was kind of flooding, and I was like, no. Right? Because you look at it, and I picture Simon falling in, and he's like a little bobber, just and he just goes down the river and he's gone. Because when a river is at flood stage, it can even be a relatively small river, but it is dangerous. This river has gotten up as far on the banks as it ever gets. And God has told them, for these Israelites, I just, for a moment, put yourself in this position, just a normal person, that God says, you priests are going to take the ark. Boy, it's not a good time to be a pastor, is it, right? You take the ark, and you're going to walk up to the river, and when you put your foot in that water, the water is going to split apart. I want you to just imagine, did you hear the very first sentence up to the very first first comma, it says, when all people had crossed the Jordan. There is a moment where these people had to go off-roading in their life, where they actually had to take a step to where God was telling them to go. Do you see it? This is not a comfortable step. It's not an easy step. The easy thing to do would have been to stay where they had stayed. This is what their fathers had done. Some of you have fathers like this, right? They never did anything great. They never did anything big. Not because they just were so focused on what they wanted to do. They just always took the easy path. This was who they were. It would have been easy to stay where they were. The God thing was to follow what God had asked them to do and to take very difficult steps in life. Men, are you not designed to take the easy path in life? Now, I don't mean that you don't work very hard when you're at work, right? I don't mean that when you have a task in front of you that has to be done, that you don't work, and you will, I think most men in here would do whatever it takes to get that thing done. What I'm talking about is, this is how I know that I have inside of me the desire to take the easy path. It's because now, just bear with me, when I take off my undergarments, my underwear, do you know where they end up? Half of the time at least? Wives, do you know where they end up? Where? On the floor, right? Yes. Husbands, do you ever do this? Do you ever eat something and then you shove the plate under the couch? Yeah, anybody? No, nobody's with me. All right, I see how it is. You guys are leaving me out to hang. Right? Because I take the easy path. There are so many times where I'll hide a cup behind some flowers or something, right? I drink out of it, hide it there so nobody knows it's there. I don't have to deal with it. I don't have to wash it. Men want to take the easy path when we don't have to work hard. That's not a bad thing necessarily. I think part of it's because we work so hard all the rest of the time. But I think if you want to see God do some amazing things, if you want to become a monumental man, you're going to take the God path, not just the easy path. I alluded to off-roading in this because one of my very favorite things that I've ever done in life is to go up to Colorado and rent a Jeep and just go off-roading through the mountains. Has anybody ever done this before? It's amazing. It really is one of the most fun things I've ever done. We're off-roading on these paths that very few people have ever been on. There are times when you are on the edge of cliffs that drop thousands of feet, and you're just, it's just as scary as it can get. But it's also exhilarating, and it gets everything inside of you going. You see, I think so many times, man, we take the easy path, especially spiritually. We take the easy path instead of the God path, and it's easy. You never get riled up. You never are asked to do much beyond what you're just comfortable doing, but you never get to see the beauty of what God can do in somebody's life. You never get to see it. I feel like I get called upon by God. I feel like there are all these opportunities in our life to do God things and not just easy things. Recently, I'll give you an example. I'm on a Facebook group with a bunch of other pastors, and they get on and they kind of share and sharpen each other and talk about different things. And this pastor who lives about 4 hours away from us got on this group, and he said, my wife and I went out on a date recently. They were on this date, and they're up there, and they don't talk the entire time. They get in their van afterwards. They don't talk the entire time. They're in the van, and finally his wife says to him, this is a pastor, mind you. She says, I think I'm done. He says, what are you talking about? She says, I can't do this anymore. I can't stay married to you and stay in the church that we're in. See, this guy is in a church that's not like our church. Our church, I sometimes feel guilty talking to other pastors because you guys have loved us so well. You have taken care of us so well, and I sometimes feel guilty talking to other pastors because this guy, his church is full of politics, and it's literally killing his wife. She is dying on the inside. And what she was saying, she said, I love you, but I can't stay in this place. And what she was really saying was, it's me or the church to him, right? This guy puts it online. He's sharing for these other pastors, asking them to pray, and a bunch of guys are saying, hey, we'll pray for you. They're giving him little bits of advice and stuff. And I felt like there was a God thing in this moment. There was an off-roading moment for me. And I still don't know if he'll take us up on it, but I put on there and said, hey, look, I don't know you. I've never met you. I think you're just 4 hours from us. If you guys want to, you and your wife are welcome to come to our house, and we'll feed you. If you have kids, we'll watch your kids for you, and you and your wife can just work with us. You guys can talk and figure out what you need to do. I said, if you even need to, we would leave our house and we'd go somewhere for a few days and let you just have our house and let you do whatever you need to do at our house. Do you know what was running through my mind the whole time? as I'm writing this and I'm typing, I'm thinking, what? I don't even know these guys. What if his church is tearing him apart for good reasons? Like, what if he doesn't preach the real gospel, right? What if this guy is a thief and he's really kiting from the offering every week and that's what's going on, and I'm letting him into my house, right? Aren't some of you thinking that right now? Like, you're like, Kent, you're an idiot. You're just letting some stranger, I know he's a pastor, but you're letting a stranger just take over your house? Do you know what? I'm tired of letting what potentially could go wrong keep me from doing the right thing. Aren't you tired of that? Of letting what potentially could go wrong keep you from doing the right thing? Men, I may very well get trampled upon if this guy takes us up on our offer. I may get trampled upon. Jenny and I right now, this is another off-roading moment. I was sharing this with Jamie. I think Jenny, like all the Hallowell kids already know about this, so maybe it's spread out from, I don't know. But we are considering fostering a kid that has come to our church on Wednesday nights. He is a troublemaker kid. But he got separated from all of his family, and he is by himself. We're taking it very slowly. We're not making foolish, just rushing into thinking, oh, this is like adopting a dog or something, right? We're taking this very carefully. But this is a scary thing for me. Don't think it's like an easy, just kids taking the easy path. But I feel like it's the God path. I have come to the conclusion that you cannot be against abortion and not be for adopting a kid. Right? Maybe that hits you wrong, but I don't think you can be against abortion and not want to do something to fix it. Say, these kids are not being aborted, we've helped that happen, but now they're just being thrown into a foster system where they're getting eaten alive. I'm struggling with that. And so I'm trying to do what I feel like is the God thing. Right? You see, it's not easy. It is scaring the living daylights out of me. I'm still not even sure about it. I'm taking these steps, but I'm tired of letting what could go wrong. It could go very wrong. We could maybe adopt this kid and for 15, 16 years, 20 years, 80 years, for the rest of my life, have miserable circumstances that we live through. But do you know what I've come to the other conclusion in my old age? Is that God does not care about you and I being comfortable as much as He cares about us living out love. We are so focused as Americans on being comfortable, right? That's what we want. But God is more interested in us being the kind of people who actually live out the gospel. Man, this morning, could I just challenge you? Would you consider not always taking the easy path in life? Would you consider taking a difficult path? I was talking, and I want to illustrate this one more way. I was talking to Levi at God this week. He taught for our VBS, and it was awesome. He did a great job. His first time ever doing something like that. Is that right? Yeah. And when I asked him, he said, yeah, man. I said, would you be our teacher for VBS? He said, yeah, man, I've never done that before. And he was like, but I'll do it. And I was like, all right, that's awesome. And I talked to Levi after the week of VBS, and I was praying the whole week that it was going to be good for him, right? Because I was like, you know the story of Levi. And I went in and he said, I'm so glad that you asked me to do that. He said it was not in my comfort zone, I'm not saying the words exactly the way he said it, but he said it was really cool, it was fun, and it was good to like see God working through that. That was kind of the idea that I was getting from it. Levi, in that moment, I want you to get that, like, going off-roading with God is not about sometimes God asks you to take big steps. Sometimes He said, step into that river and I'll part it, and you better step or you'll miss the miracle, right? But sometimes it's as simple as God saying to you men, like, why don't you stop letting the women just do all the teaching for little kids and you do some of that, right? Because I'll tell you what, kids really listen to men. Not that they don't listen to women, but there is something powerful about having a man that pours into their life. It is powerful that Levi did that, right? Men, what is keeping you from doing the right thing? My guess is it is your fear that it could all go wrong, yeah? I am encouraging you this morning to take steps with God, and you will. It is scary, I get it, but I'm telling you, when you take a step out with God, it is so powerful in your faith when you see Him actually show up, and you see Him holding you up in the midst of a sea that you didn't think you could get through. All right, here we go. Next one. You ready? Number 2. Stop faking. This is you on your way to becoming a monumental man. Stop faking it. Be a man of courage, all right? Let me read this to you. Joshua 4, 9-14 says this, Joshua also set up another pile of 12 stones in the middle of the Jordan at the place where the priests who carried the Ark of the Covenant were standing. And they are there to this day. Now, so you get it, right? Joshua's had these men take their 12 stones, and they have built them at the camp. And now Joshua has gone back to the middle of the Jordan, and he has built this monument that is sticking up out of the Jordan River. And at the point of this being written, they're still there to this day. The priests who were carrying the ark stood in the middle of the river until all of the Lord's commands that Moses had given to Joshua were carried out. Meanwhile, the people hurried across the riverbed, and when everyone was safely on the other side, the priests crossed over with the ark of the Lord as the people watched. The armed warriors from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half-tribe of Manasseh led the Israelites across the Jordan, just as Moses had directed. These armed men, about 40,000 strong, get it? 40,000 guys. This is not like a little encampment. This is all the people of Israel. There are armies marching across this area. About 40,000 strong were ready for battle, and the Lord was with them as they crossed over the plains of Jericho. That day, the Lord made Joshua a great leader in the eyes of all the Israelites. For the rest of his life, they revered him as much as they had revered Moses. I want to, just this statement right here, if we could leave that on the screen. This is big. You know, Moses is like the man. He is the guy that the Israelites, still to this day, if you talk to Jewish people who are Orthodox, who still kind of follow the Jewish religion and faith, Moses is the guy. He is kind of their Jesus. He's their George Washington. He is the guy who got it all started. He is the man. And so for them to say that these people revered Joshua as much as they had revered Moses. And I want to say to you, do you know that at this point, Joshua is about 80 years old? He's not a young pup. You know that? He was 40 years old when he went and spied in the land. And so it has been another 40 years old, and he is an 80-year-old man, and these guys start to look at him, and they begin to revere him as much as they revered Moses. Do you know why? I think, anyway? Because Joshua led with the same kind of integrity, the same kind of humility. He led with the same kind of strength as Moses. He did not do it, I don't think anyway, for people to see him. He did it for God to see him, right? And it made him the kind of man that these people looked at and said, I want to be like him. Man, could I encourage you to stop faking it and become men of courage? I was thinking about this, and I was thinking, how do I really help people understand what it means to stop faking it? Do you know who the people are who will know if you're faking it? I won't know. Did you know that? I will not know if you're faking it. You know this is true because how many of you have ever heard of or know a pastor who was in the ministry, seemed to be doing a great job, and ended up having to leave the ministry because there was something horrendously wrong in their life? They were stealing money, they had an affair, they were lying and cheating. Have you ever known somebody like that? Or yeah, okay. Anybody else? You can raise your hands. It's all right. That's all right. Yeah. Do you know why? Isn't it weird to think that somebody at this stature could fake it? Right? Like I could get up here and I could fake it. This is why it's important for you to read the Bible on your own, right? And not have just a faith that's attached to kin. There are people who have served as deacons and elders who are faking it. They somehow are able to fool us all into thinking that they're super godly men, and they really aren't. Do you know who you cannot fool? Your own kids. You can't fool them. They know if you never ever open your Bible. Right? I had somebody this week who I was doing some counseling with, and they said, my dad pretends to be this really godly person, but his Bible is probably hidden on a top shelf somewhere collecting dust. Your kids know. You're not fooling them. They know if your prayer life is stale and old, and when you do actually have to pray, it's the exact same prayer over and over and over and over again. Right? Your kids know if you tend to judge poor people more than you tend to help poor people. Yeah? Your kids know if you fall asleep during church instead of staying awake and being glued to the message of God's Word in this place. Your kids know. You can't hide it from them. This whole concept of stop faking it, being a man of courage, has nothing to do with you coming here and pretending for everybody else. It is about digging deep and actually becoming a man of substance. A man who makes a difference in other people's lives. I love that these people began to revere Joshua like they revered Moses. It was because Joshua was a man of substance. 40 years ago, Joshua had said, let's go into this land. We can take it. God is with us. Let's do it. And 40 years later, Joshua is still that same guy saying, let's go into the land. We can take it. I know we can do this. Let's go into the land. I know we can take it. I know we can do this. Let me tell you some things that I think will help make this practical for you. Because it's a little hard, right? Okay, I can stop faking it. But what does that even mean? How do I do that? Here's something you could do. You could initiate in your family that you'd like to start praying together as a family, right? You could be strong as a man and courageous and say, look, we don't ever spend time as a family around God. You've probably seen in me that I seem like a faker. Let's just start doing this. Before we go to bed at night, let's as a family gather and pray together. And we're going to let you share what's going on in your life, and we're going to just do it. Women, ladies, wives, please don't do this for your husbands. Let's see if they have the guts to be man enough to lead their family. I am so tired of seeing women who lead their family spiritually and men just sit back and let it happen. Don't take the easy path, take the God path. I've always wondered, I always struggled with what it meant to be a godly leader in your family. You know, people will say, the husband is the leader of the family. And does that mean that I'm supposed to make decisions about buying trucks? You know, does that mean that I decide where we go for vacation? I don't think it has much to do with that stuff at all. I think it has way more to do with you leading your family towards spiritual things. You asking your wife, how are you doing spiritually? We haven't talked about how you're have you been in God's Word? What's He teaching you lately? I bet your wife would absolutely love to have you do that in her life. It might even save your marriage. Did you know that? For you to become a man who stops faking. So invite your family to pray with you. And listen, please, if you have been somebody who's faking it, own up with your kids. Own up with your grandkids. Own up with whoever it is. Maybe you just say, look, I haven't been living it out. I'm sorry. I need to. I want to. I'm not great at this, but I'm going to work at it. Will you guys join with me? And if they say no, let them have some room for that. Because you have not led them in a way for however many years that they actually want to follow you anymore. Number two, you can spend time with God daily and lead your family to do the same. What if you got the Bible off the top shelf and actually started reading it? And didn't force your kids into it, but you just said, man, you know what God taught me today? And share it with them. What if you went to Joplin and you saw a homeless person and you said, kids, this person may be faking, maybe they don't need the money, but let's invite them out for dinner. Let's take them out for dinner. How? Oh, that's scary, Kent. What if everything went wrong? I don't know. I'm tired of letting what would go wrong keep me from doing what's right. Aren't you? Yeah. Things will go wrong. The Christian life is not about everything being easy. It's about us showing love. People will know us by our love. There are a million things that you guys can do. I'm not going to list them all. But I'm hoping that there's enough to get you started. Third thing, this is it. Tell stories of God's greatness, not just yours. If you want to become a monumental man, tell stories of God's greatness, not just yours. Joshua 4, verse 21 to 24. Then Joshua said to the Israelites, in the future your children will ask, right? He gets it. He knows this is going to happen. Your children will ask, what do these stones mean? Who piled these up? You can't just tell the guy to leave them and then, they piled up. What do these stones mean? Then you can tell them, this is where the Israelites crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the river right before your eyes. And He kept it dry until you were all across. Just as He did at the Red Sea, when He dried it up until we had all crossed over. And look at this, verse 24. He did this so that He did this, so that all the nations of the earth might know that the Lord's hand is powerful, and so you might fear the Lord your God forever. He did this so that you might know, so that you might fear. Look, you can what's the word? Entertain. You can entertain your kids with stories of your greatness, but you can only impress them with stories of God's faithfulness, right? You can entertain your kids with stories of your greatness, but you'll only impact them by telling stories of God's faithfulness in your life. My dad is one of my heroes, and man, he did funny stuff. I loved his stories. He would entertain us as kids. One time in Garden City they had a zoo, and my dad they had polar bears at the zoo, and so my dad, he was a senior in high school, I think. They went into the zoo late at night and they threw some dye into the pool that the polar bears would like roll around in. And so one polar bear all night long just laid in the pool, and he was it green? He laid in the pool, and he was half green and half white, and the other one like rolled around. I mean, I grew up with these entertaining stories of stuff that my dad did, fun stuff. You know, probably not legal, I don't know, but it was super funny stuff. And man, as a kid, I was entertained by that. But do you know what has impacted my life? Stories about my dad and how he cared about other people, how my dad treated other people. Even my dad would tell stories of my grandpa. This is generations now. My grandpa used to buy coats and stuff for poor families, and he would give it to them, and he would try not to let them know. Some of them found out about it, but he would try to give them coats and clothing during the winter and make sure that people were taken care of. Those kind of stories, the others entertained me. It was fun as a kid to hear them. Those impacted me. Folks, the problem for some of you is that you have never taken steps where you have to have God show up. Some of you have taken the easy route for so long, man, that you have no stories of God's faithfulness because you've never given beyond what was comfortable for you. You've never given of your time beyond what was comfortable for you. You've never given of your energy and your talents beyond what was comfortable for you. You've never given of your money beyond what was comfortable for you. You've never given of your possessions beyond what was comfortable for you. And until you take a step that requires God to be there, that requires your faith to actually be put in action, until you actually take the God path, where you're off-roading and you're on a 1,000-foot cliff, and if there's one wrong move, it feels like you're dead. And you know the only thing holding that thing up against the edge is God. Until you're able to do that, folks, you'll never have stories to tell of God's faithfulness, because you've never actually needed God's faithfulness. Man, can I ask you this morning to become men of courage? See, I think a lot of us are still up on that ladder in our own lives, right? We have climbed the ladder. We have a very shoddy footing for the ladder. It's kind of rough, and it feels like it might fall at any moment, because as a dad, as a man, you never had a good role model yourself. You're just doing what you're supposed to do, and you kind of turn out to be more a Homer Simpson than like a home run baseball player, right? I mean, you kind of turn out to you sit and come home from work, you sit on the couch, you watch your TV, you watch your stories, as I like to call them, and you watch your sports, whatever it is. Thank you. You watch whatever, and you go to bed at night. Every single day is the same, and you like it that way, and that's life. And you've never stepped out of those bounds. And you're really, with your kids and your family and everyone around you, you don't know it, but the ground that you're on and that ladder is kind of shaky right now. You've started to see it in your older age. You see in the generations that have followed you how they aren't like where you were maybe here. And if you were here and you were faithful to God, they have gone past where you were at. But if you weren't faithful to God, you didn't live it out in your life, and you didn't have it, you have seen it doesn't stay where they don't stay where they're at. You know that, right? They erode. They go backwards, and they are further from God than you were. And you don't know what to do about it. I will tell you what to do about it. Become a monumental man. Become somebody who leaves a legacy. If you want to know how to become a great dad, a great father, I'll tell you what you do. You look in the scriptures, because the Father that's in there is so powerful. Is so wonderful. Is so loving. He knows how to discipline, and He knows how to handle that discipline with love at the same time. He knows how to be just and loving at the very same time. He is the one who gave everything He had for you and I, right? His Son, Jesus, died, who was God in the flesh. He died so that we could have a relationship with Him. This morning, man, this isn't an emotional plea. Just a straight up, will you be a man? Will you step up to the plate for your family? Will you go off-roading? Will you stop faking it? Will you start telling stories of God's faithfulness? Set up some stones in your own life for your kids to look at and see? This may mean a change at your very core. It may mean a repenting of your own sins and saying to God, I've been messing it up. I've missed it. I've missed the mark. I want so badly for you to put a firm foundation under this ladder that I stand on as a dad, as a man. I was thinking about that kid that went into that church and shot a bunch of people this week. Dylan Roof, I think. I was thinking how sad it was that he was in the very place that could have transformed him as a man. And he sat there among the people that could have shared with him the message of what would transform him as a man. And instead of finding true life, true hope, true peace, true power, he thought that his violent act would give him power, would accomplish something beyond what he ever dreamed of doing. He missed it. Do you know he missed it? He could have found hope. He could have found life in that very place as a man. He could have been transformed, and he wouldn't let violence anymore rule his life. He would have been ruled by a power that we call love. It's not a wimpy, like feathery, all feeling good. It's true love. It's powerful. It's strong. It is manly. That's what love is. And he missed it. This morning, it is my hope that no one else in this place misses it. We're going to, in a moment, sing a song. We'll watch a video and sing the song. I would invite you to sing with us. It may feel weird to sing it off of video. I don't know. Maybe not. But I would invite you to sing this with us. And I want to invite you, men. I know this is awkward. But if you're the kind of man who needs to take a step in your life, to be the kind of man who can be a monumental man, that your kids someday will have a legacy that he lived his life for Jesus, and I can see it. I want to invite you to just do something simple in your chair. Just take a moment to talk with God about it. It's not about being flashy and showy. You sure can come up here and talk to me, but man, what really matters is that you talk to him. So this morning, I want to invite you to make a decision where you sit today to become a man that matters in this life. That you give up. How cool would it be if your legacy was no longer he just drank beer a lot, to he changed people's lives a lot? Man, that'd be powerful.